Now I have audio. Okay, great. Back to it. So, tanse everyone. Oki bonjour. Sorry. It looks like my live stream. So sometimes technology, once it updates, it's like, I don't know which mic to use. So I'm glad I'm back. Happy Indigenous Veterans Day, everyone. Memorial Day, or sorry, Remembrance Day is on Friday, but today was Indigenous Veterans Day. I think it's important that we acknowledge our Indigenous veterans. I do have a poppy that I usually wear this day. I totally spaced and it's upstairs. But I think it's really important just to acknowledge, all our brothers and sisters and our Two-Spirit family members who have fought for us overseas. And where I might not agree with war, I do agree with standing up for what's right. And a lot of them were on the lines defending, what was right, defending people, defending justice, defending people who've been marginalized just like them. And I think it's really, really important that we acknowledge that as part of our history. Also to acknowledge that when a lot of those elders came back from the war, or the veterans came back from the war, the Indigenous veterans, where they were equals on the ground over there, when they came home, they were not treated as equals. They were uh, second class citizens, again, in their own home, even though they were defending, this country, their land, their Turtle Island. And we need to really honor that history. We need to be able to talk about it and make the reparations that those veterans deserve. And so, yeah, I think it's really important to honor them in a good way today. So I laid down tobacco and I was thinking about my own family. We have a big history of being in the Air Force. My great-grandfather, my Coco, my grandmother, my mom, and all of my aunties were actually all in the Air Force. And so I think it's really important to just acknowledge that they have done some incredible work and done some incredible things and seen some horrific things as well. But together we can heal those wounds and really start looking at war as a whole as something that needs to be avoided at all costs. And this is why I really loved our peacekeeping roles ages ago, before we started to shift gears. We need to go back into that peacekeeping role overseas and abroad, to really take care of the people that need us. And so I wanted to welcome everyone into this circle today, just by acknowledging the land upon which we stand. I am in Treaty 7 territory, so I'm in Mulkinstis, which is the home of the Blackfoot of Siksika, Kainai, and Piikani, the Sarsi Dene from Tsuut'ina, and the Stoney Nakoda of Morley, which includes Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. We're also walking in the footsteps of Métis Region 3, which is why I proudly wear my Métis sash, to act as that bridge between Indigenous and non-Indigenous culture. My family is from Muskeg Lake Cree Nation in Saskatchewan on my mom's side, and we're just French on my dad's side. And I think it's really important to just see the contributions that, our family and our reserve, but all families and reserves have made, especially today, really thinking about those veterans. And I acknowledge, all of our teachings of this particular region. And so, to welcome everyone into the circle today, I wanted to share with you the Cree welcome song. Traditionally, when we sing songs, we sing in rounds of 4 to honor the 4 directions of the medicine wheel. But this is a little bit different. We sing it in rounds of 3 to keep the circle open and welcoming, so everyone completes the circle today. Because in a circle, we're all connected. There's no beginning, there's no end. No one is greater or less than anyone else in the circle, just like in the hoop of life. So it teaches us to honor each other for those differences. Because if we were all exactly the same, the world would be super boring. Nothing would ever get accomplished, and yeah, where would we be? So we need those differences to hold our communities together, to be able to be resilient and to be able to adapt to any situation that comes at us. It's important to learn from each other and not compare ourselves to others. It teaches us to come into the circle without judgment, because we don't know whose journey, where they what they've gone through, the journeys that they have taken. So it's really about learning and understanding and sharing our stories so that we can become resilient together. And so this song, Mia Sin, is from the Natahau family from Sturgeon Lake, and I'm very thankful for that family, for keeping the song alive, for keeping the story alive, because for so many generations it was illegal for us to share our songs and stories, for us to practice our ceremony, for us to share any of our traditional knowledge or teachings, harvest any of our traditional medicines, or just really to be ourselves, it was illegal. And so I'm thankful that we're in a time where we can share these teachings in a beautiful and a meaningful way and help everyone to really reconnect to who they are at their core. And this song has really been instrumental. It doesn't just mean welcome, because it does welcome in all of our ancestors. And so I find that that's the way that I welcome my ancestors in, so that they can support me in this journey. But it also means beautiful. I'm gonna stand up to sing. Again, still not 100%. Bronchitis, huzzah. And sinusitis, also not huzzah. Oops. One moment, my friends. There we go. Miasen, miasen, hasemina, hasemina, epetakote, niwagomagan, hota, Homa kitaskino miasen, miasen, hasemina, hasemina, epetakote, niwagomagan, hota, homa, kitaskino, miasen, miasen, hasemina, hasemina, epetakote, niwagomagan, hota, homa, kitaskino. Hi, and welcome to the circle, everybody. And so I wanted to share a couple little teachings today. I was going to smudge, but I totally forgot my matches upstairs, so oops. But the teachings I kind of wanted to talk about is the teachings of tobacco. So I have been gifted a lot of tobacco over my time. And tobacco is one of those things that when we're gifted it, it's a sacred gift. It says thank you from our spirit. Oh, thank you, Kiki. From our spirit to someone else's spirit when we gift it. And so when we receive it, it's a beautiful gift. It's a spiritual gift. And I'm always so thankful whenever I receive it. And a lot of the time people will ask me, well, what kind do I give and how much do I give? And it's not about that. It's what can you manage and what is the intention that you put into it? For example, I went to this one event. They invited me and they gave me these 2 huge buckets of rolling tobacco. And I was like, wow, we're compensating for something. But they're like, well, it's the best. I'm like, I'm sorry? They're like, well, it's the best. It's probably the most you've ever received. It was really expensive. So you enjoy that. And I'm like, I don't think you know what tobacco's for. And they're like, oh yeah, we do. You enjoy that. I'm like, okay, sure. And so then at the event, I was speaking and I kept being interrupted and they were being very disrespectful. They were making fun of my language. They were making fun of the songs. And I just felt completely just disrespected. And it was like, why was I even there? So that tobacco, it didn't matter how much was there, it meant absolutely nothing because there was no intention in there. But the next day, I went to Servants Anonymous and I was drumming and singing with some single moms. And I was like, woo, single moms, because I'm a single mom. So I really appreciated being around, my spirit sisters. And so as we were drumming and singing, it was really lovely. We were having a really good time. But there was one woman off to the side. You could tell she was really enjoying the drumming and the singing, but she was carrying a lot in her heart. You could tell her heart was very, very heavy. And after we were done the drum circle, I was packing everything up, and she went out for a cigarette. And then she came back in, and then she held out her hand, and she was shaking. And so she was like this, and so I held up my hand, and she put the tail end of a cigarette butt in my hand. And she said, "This is all the tobacco that I have in the world, but can you please pray for my daughter? She's been missing for almost a year, and we don't have any answers. We haven't had any leads. The police haven't been very helpful. We just want some sort of answers for her children and for her family. Just please, can you pray for her?" And I said, "Absolutely, absolutely, I will pray." And so I went down to the river, and I prayed so hard, probably harder than I'd ever prayed before. And then I sprinkled that tobacco into the river. But that tobacco, it meant so much more to me than anything else, anything I've ever received, because that intention was so, so strong and so beautiful. And so, again, it's not about the type, it's not about the amount, it's not any about that. It's all about the intention that you put into that tobacco or medicine or anything. It's just like anything that you gift as an honoraria. That's not the specific amount, because to some people, $100 can be nothing. To some people, $100 could be their entire world. And so it's really important to just acknowledge and meet people where they're at, and not limit people because of finances. If people need that help, you give it to them. If people offer you tobacco, don't shun it because it's too small or not a pouch. You say thank you, because that's a gift. That's a beautiful spiritual gift. And it's not the amount, it's not the kind, but it's the intention, and that's what's important. And so that's kind of my teaching around tobacco, but I have a story around tobacco as well. And so tobacco, being the spirit medicine, a long time ago, before we'd had a spirit medicine, Creator gathered all of the plants and all of the animals and said, "We have this wonderful race coming, and they're going to be shaped and molded after a lot of, our trickster spirits, kind of like Napi or Wasakajak or Nanaboshu or any of those trickster spirits in many different nations." Pardon me. But when these people, these two-leggeds, come to the earth, they won't know what to do with themselves. So they won't know how to harvest. They harvest any of the plants. They won't know how to walk on the earth. They won't know how to dress themselves. They're going to be fairly new, and they're unlike any of the other creatures. So we all have different purposes, and they have to figure out their purpose. But one of their purposes to help them along their path is to pray. So I need someone to be that messenger to me, Creator, so that they can pray in a good way. And he explained it has to be someone who can carry those 7 teachings in such a small space so that we can gift it to the two-leggeds. And all of the animals said, "Well, we are the animals, so we can actually teach them in a better way, and plants just sit there." And so they started arguing about not only how they were better than plants, but, oh, thank you. Thanks, Beatrice. But they also started arguing about, well, what about themselves? They started arguing amongst themselves. Who is the better animal to represent prayer? Who's the better representative of spirit than them? And so the muskrat's like, "Well, I helped to get the earth, so maybe I should represent spirit." And they said, "You already have a good job. You made the earth, so you're fine. Don't worry about it. You're already sacred." And so all of the animals started just picking at each other, saying, "Well, I'm better because of this." And the bear was like, "Well, I'm the largest." And all of the animals, as they were bickering back and forth, well, the plant said, why would they listen to the animals? To pray, you have to be silent. We're silent. Doesn't make any sense for the animals to be that. And so the plant started bickering back and forth of who was the best. The berries were like, well, we're the berries and we carry a lot of nutrients and we feed them and we're delicious, so it should be one of us. And the grasses said, well, we grow in abundance and we're everywhere, so it should be one of us. And the vegetables started arguing, well, they could eat us, so it should be one of us. And the different medicines started arguing, well, we help with this, this, and that, so it should be one of us. So everyone was arguing. And through all of this chaos of everyone saying how they were better than everyone else, the humble tobacco walked through the crowd and walked to Creator and very humbly said, Creator, I know I'm not greater or less than anyone else. In fact, I know I'm probably not as good as anyone because I don't have a job, Creator. You can't eat me like many of the plants. I don't have a voice like the animals. I don't have movement like the animals. I'm actually toxic to humans and to many animals and bugs. So I don't really have a purpose, Creator. I don't have a job. But I would love to help teach the two-leggeds in any way I can. So even if I can't be that sacred medicine, I would just like some sort of message to give to them. And Creator said, Tobacco, you are so humble and so kind and so gracious, and you only wanted to help. You weren't here for accolades. You just wanted to give back to the two-leggeds. And so you, Creator, or you, Tobacco, you will be the sacred messenger of spirit. You will be the spirit medicine, and you will help guide the two-leggeds to me. You will help guide the two-leggeds to each other so they can offer their spirit to each other in a good way. And so Creator gifted the tobacco, the sacred gift of being that spirit medicine, the conduit, or as my mom calls it, the cell phone to Creator, but also that communication between our spirit to someone else's spirit. When we gift it to each other, it's to say thank you from our spirit to someone else's spirit. When we gift it to an elder or a knowledge keeper or drummer, singer, storyteller, or anyone who's sharing our traditional knowledge, it's to say thank you for sharing that knowledge in such a beautiful way, but also for sharing the teachings of their ancestors. It's not so we can take those teachings, it's so we can acknowledge where they've come from and thank those lessons that are learned within those teachings. And so it's very humbling whenever we are gifted tobacco. And it's also that reminder that if you ask for a favor and there's tobacco involved, well, it's more binding than any legal contract because it's a spiritual contract and you cannot break those. So if someone asks you a favor with tobacco and you're not able to fulfill that favor, you go to someone else and you gift them tobacco on behalf of that other person and say, I can't finish this, but can you? And then once that task is complete, that debt has been paid, that spiritual debt has been paid. And so this is why tobacco is so incredibly important. And so, yeah, those are just my teachings about tobacco. I just had the feeling that today was a tobacco teaching sort of day. So I wanted to share the Creator song. Just because the more I think about how the animals were bickering back and forth, the teachings behind the song is we're not above creation or below creation. We are part of creation. And so there's no greater or less than. We all have a role to play. We all have a purpose. We all have a gift and a goal. And something that we can accomplish so that we can share with the world. And so just like the tobacco shares itself so that we can pray, we share ourselves and the gifts and the talents that we have. And it's really important that we honor them. And so I'm going to grab my drum. There we go. And so this song, the Creator song, it came to me through a friend of mine, and Liz, and I'm really, really thankful to Night Sun for sharing this song with me. Me and my son had sung on her album, and when she said, well, I don't really have money, but can I gift you a song? I'm like, absolutely. So she shared the song, and right away I knew it. I knew it in my heart. I knew it in my bones. I knew it in my body. I felt it in my blood. It was stuck in my head, and I could feel it just resonating through my whole spirit. And I was like, I know this song. And so it was so easy because I just heard it once and it was right in there. And then I went to visit my great aunt because I'd like to share with, this was before the pandemic, I always went to share with her once a week. I would drum and sing with her, and as I was drumming and singing with her, she started singing this song with me, and I'm like, Auntie, I've never shared this song before. How do you know this song? And she said, this is our family song. How do you know this song? And I told her, well, I guess it found its way home. And so this song has really meant so much to me. And I think when you're on the right path, all of those things that are meant to come home will. And so this is the Creator song. Sorry. Espeme kotawino, kize koko tawino, weo heyo haweo, 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 weo heyo haweo. Espeme kotawino, kize koko tawino, weo heyo haweo, 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 weo heyo haweo. Espeme kotawino, kize koko tawino, weo heyo haweo, 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 weo heyo haweo. Espeme kotawino, kize koko tawino, weo heyo haweo, 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 weo heyo tawino. My voice is very squeaky. Awesome. So, yeah, I have another story. Actually, this story I haven't shared in a really long time, and it just came to me while I was singing the Creator song. And so this story is, it's another one of the stories about finding our purpose. But before we were created, there's a lot of stories before we were created. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Mom. Aww. I saw Skip on the weekend. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Clarence. So my mom just said happy Indigenous Veterans Day from Clarence and Wolf Lake Senior and Skip. And yeah, I saw Skip on the weekend. But Clarence had gifted me a beautiful Blackfoot name, which is Red Singer, because there's not a word for pink in Blackfoot. He's really funny. Or else I would be Pink Singer for sure. But the story that I'm going to share, this is basically about how we got our purpose. And I learned it actually from a few different elders. All of Manitoba shared this story, and oh, who else? There's different versions of the story floating around. Another one was my Auntie Doreen, my elder Doreen, who is just, she's lovely, she's wonderful. She shared this story once. Also, my other elder Sharon, she shared this story once. But this is a really interesting story because it's been shared in so many different ways by so many different people with so many different twists on it or languages to it. And so I think it's just a wonderful story. And so a long time ago, before we were created, Creator called a council of all of the animals together. And he said, so when the two-leggeds, that's us because we walk around on two legs, come back to Earth, they're going to have to figure out what their spirit is. They have to find their spirit. But I have to find a place for them to find their spirit, to find their purpose. But I don't want it to be too obvious. And I don't want anyone else to be able to find anyone else's spirit. They have to find it themselves. And so how do you think, where do you think we should hide their spirits? Where do you think we should, tuck them away? Or, do any of you animals have wonderful ideas of where we could hide their spirits? And, well, the buffalo said, well, what about in the deepest prairies? If we just walk and put it in the middle of the prairies, they surely can't reach there. I mean, only we can. And Creator said, no, they're going to spread out far beyond the prairies to all four corners of the earth. And all of the animals said, all four corners of the earth? That's crazy. And then the eagle said, well, what about the highest mountain? If we put it up in the highest mountain, maybe they won't be able to find it. They won't be able to reach it. And Creator said, no, one day they're going to be able to climb all the highest mountains and they'll be able to get there and find other people's spirits. Well, that won't do. And then the mole said, well, what about under the earth? If we dig deep, deep, deep under the earth, we could bury it there and then they wouldn't be able to find each other's spirits. And Creator shook his head and said, no, in many, many years' time, eventually they will dig deeper and deeper and deeper into the earth, and I don't want them to discover anybody else's spirits. And the turtle said, well, what about the depths of the ocean? Most of us can't reach the depths of the ocean, so they should surely be safe there. And Creator said, no, at the bottom of the ocean, they'll be able to one day reach. And all of the animals were amazed. What was this creature that was going to be able to climb the highest mountains, go deep into the oceans, go into the middle of the prairies, go deep underground? What was this creature that was coming? Well, they thought, well, there has to be somewhere where we could hide things. And finally the eagle got the good idea. Well, what about up in the sky, up in the clouds, Creator? Creator shook his head. One day they will learn how to fly like the eagle and the birds, and they will be able to find those spirits there. Oh no. All the animals were just perplexed of where on earth? Wait a second. What if they didn't hide them on earth? And so the owl said, what about in the moon, Creator? The moon looks over us. They could see it, but they could not touch it. And Creator again shook their head and said, one day those two-leggeds are going to make it to the moon. And all of the animals were amazed. None of them had ever thought about reaching the moon. How would this two-legged be able to reach the moon? And so they were all beyond words. We don't think anywhere on earth or off the earth is ever going to be safe for their spirits, Creator. What should we do? So all of the animals wondered. And then the little mouse stepped forward and said, I have an idea. And all of the animals looked around and said, who has an idea? And then the mouse stepped further forward and said, I have an idea. And all of the animals said, all right, Mouse, if you think you have the idea, why don't you share it? And they kind of were chuckling a little bit. And she said, well, why don't we hide them inside them? And all of the animals thought for a moment. Well, what do you mean by that, Mouse? She said, well, if we hide their spirits deep inside them, they are the only ones that will carry those spirits with them. And they will have to find it within themselves. And isn't that what all of our spirits are? And so all of the animals erupted with applause and said, of course, of course. Creator was so thankful. Mouse, you solved it, you solved it. We will hide their spirits and their purpose in themselves. They will be connected to it. when they were inside their mothers, because that's how we connect to spirit. So our spirit is deep within ourselves, deep within our belly buttons, deep within our beings. And when we find it, we find our true purpose and our calling. And that is truly what makes everyone whole. And so that is the story of where our spirits or our purposes are hidden. And so, yeah. I'm actually going to share another song. So, yeah, I'm going to share the laughing song, because it's just a really fun song. It's a happy song. It's from the Four Winds Singers. I believe they're out of Edmonton, and I just love this song. And it just brings me so much joy to be able to share it. So, again, Four Winds Singers. I'm not sure if they're on YouTube. You're going to have to look it up. But this is the happy song, or the laughing song. And the spirit trying to hit me with a chair. Okay. Called the laughing song because I always mess it up. Oops. I've already messed it up. It just left my head. It doesn't want to come out. Apparently that's not the song I meant to sing today. So instead, the chickadee song wants to come out. So I'm just going to do it as sing it all the way through, although usually I do it as a call and response. But this is the song that came through me in ceremony. I was asking for a song to share with community, and specifically with children, and I didn't know how to get the song. So I went to ceremony, and I was praying on it so hard when I was in the lodge. And then every time we would open the lodge, we would hear the sound of chickadees. Chickadee-dee-dee-dee-dee, cheeseburger, just talking back and forth. And everyone was amazed, because usually they didn't come that close to the lodge, except when we were having our feast, and then they just kind of wanted in on the food. But what was really interesting is the third round, it got so hot that everybody left the lodge except for me. I was just sitting there because I'm used to the heat. I used to sweat in Arizona. When you get out and 45 degrees feels cool, you know you're in a hot sweat. And so I was just sitting in the lodge enjoying the heat, thinking of the song, and then I heard the chickadees, chickadee-dee-dee-dee. I was like, oh, they sound really close, and I opened my eyes, and they were popping in and out of the front of the lodge, just kind of looking at me and going, chickadee-dee-dee. And I was like, oh, this is your song. And so that fourth round, this song just came right out, and this was their song. This is the chickadee song. And the chickadee teaches us how to listen. It teaches us that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a purpose, so we can listen twice as much as we speak. But also, what's really cool is I love science, because science always proves things we've done for thousands of years. But birds actually shut down a part of their brain when they're communicating with each other so that they don't interrupt. And so when one bird is talking, the other one shuts down their language cortex, and vice versa. There's a bird in the Amazon. Actually, there was a special on CBC about this, which was really cool. I was like, oh my gosh, I talk about this all the time. It's so cool. But this bird, when you listen to it on tape, it sounds like a trilling. But it's actually 2 birds talking so quickly back and forth to each other that it sounds like they're trilling, but they never interrupt each other. And the way that they do this is by shutting off their language cortex. And so scientists brought them into a lab and put them in an MRI machine, as one does, and then watched as they talked back and forth to each other. And their brains literally flickered on and off, on and off, on and off so quickly with that trilling, which was incredible. And so it teaches us that sometimes we need to just listen with our ears and close our mouths. Just like the birds shut down their language cortex, the way that we do that is by closing our mouths. I tell this to children all the time. Sometimes it works, sometimes not so much. But this is really what that chickadee song honors. And it teaches us how to talk to each other with joy and with love and with curiosity, because chickadees are so curious. And I think that's just a beautiful way to understand and appreciate the world, is through curiosity and open eyes. And so this is the chickadee song. I'm going to do it as a call and response, even though I'm not going to do the second part. Happy ho ho ho, happy ho ho, 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 happy my chest hurts a lot. And so, yeah, I'm going to share a little bit more. Um, Stories are just escaping me right now. So actually, I wanted to share the healing song just to honor Indigenous veterans. I will be at Fort Calgary on Friday, which is Remembrance Day, sharing a healing song, but also sharing just opening and a welcome, and I will be singing "O Canada." I know it's a thing. I can sing it, and so, but I always begin with that Cree welcome song before singing "O Canada" because it's important to acknowledge the land that we're on first, and then the land that has been created around us afterwards. Or it's not really land; it's fascism. No, I'm just kidding. All right, but I just wanted to honor the Indigenous veterans that I know, the ones in my family, the ones that have passed, the ones that work really, really hard to really have a sense of dignity and well-being, who are dealing with PTSD and homelessness, and they have worked so hard for our people, and for them to be just thrown out like that, it just breaks my heart. And so this is for them, so that they heal in a good way, so that we can see the error of our ways and we actually start supporting community, because we have matriarchal societies for a purpose. What that meant is not only were the women and we were in charge, but they were the ones that made decision for the greater whole. They made sure that everybody was taken care of, that nobody got left behind, that we were all together. We were all one, that nobody was valued higher or less than anyone else, because that's when problems happen. But to recognize that you are only as strong as the weakest and most hurting person in your society. Once you realize that, you support each other, you lift each other up, and you work together for the healing of our entire community. And I think that's what we really need to do. And so the healing song is really for that. It's to strive for justice. It's to strive for our own healing, whether it be through the impacts of residential school and that intergenerational trauma, whether it be through our experiences, but it's really, really important just to be able to lift each other up and to be able to support each other. So that's what community is for, and that's what it's all about. And so, yeah, I'm going to share the healing song. This is also called the crying song or the wailing song. I've learned it from several elders. All of Manitoba is one of them. I remember my mushum singing it, my great-grandfather, when I was growing up. Also, Carrie Moore shares it. Who else? Patrick used to share it. Sharon used to share it. There's a bunch of elders that used to share it. And it's really cool because I was singing it at a Lakota ceremony, and they're like, oh, we know this song. And they were singing it with me, like the same music, the same instrumentation, but and the same melody, but just different wording. And I think that's so amazing. It just shows that this song really transcends those boundaries, and healing transcends those boundaries, because it brings us together as a community. And so in it, we sing it, of course, 4 times, but the 3rd time we stop drumming. And in that silence, we invite you in to heal, to ask for the healing that you need in your own life, to pray in a good way, to ask for the healing of the people around the world, to ask for the healing of those Indigenous veterans and all veterans, and really to lay that foundation for healing so that we can come together and do the work that needs to get done. And so this is the healing song and the crying song. When that drum comes in on that last verse, it's really about releasing all of those things and to let the universe do what it needs to do with that energy. And so this is the Cree healing song or crying song or wailing song. So you might hear the tears, and if tears come, that's okay. Let them come, because that's our healing. That's a beautiful gift. way high, way high, way high, oh. Way high, way high, way high, oh. Way high, way high, oh. Ah, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah, oh. Way high, way high, way high, oh. Way high, way high, way high, oh. Way high, way high, oh. Awesome. Sorry. I wanted to also share the Women's Warrior song. This is just such a beautiful song, and it does honor those warriors. And what a warrior is, it's someone who is of service. Even though people have been in the military and are considered warriors, it's the ones that truly step up for their community. Those are the true warriors, the ones that honor the voice of the voiceless, the ones that strive for justice for murdered and missing Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people, who help families that are struggling. Those are truly the people that are the warriors in our society. And so I'll share the Women's Warrior song. This song is a Salish song. It is from the West Coast. And I've carried it for many years, and it's just a beautiful gift to be able to share it. It's really become that theme or that anthem for murdered and missing Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people, and now our men throughout Turtle Island, but specifically it has originated in East Hastings in Vancouver. And so I carry the voices and the hopes of so many families when I sing this song, and I can feel it resonating within me when I share this song. And so, this is the Women's Warrior song. Please learn it so that when marches happen, you can sing along and you feel so included, because our voices are stronger when they're together. I'm going to share the bear song as well. So the bear, in our 7 teachings, he represents courage, and it's the courage to stand up for what's right in your community, because that's exactly what the bear does. The bear always knows what to eat and when to eat it, and how to bring balance back to nature. So in Banff, for example, 15 years ago, when they dropped those hungry wolves in the middle of Banff National Park, thank you to our lovely American friends for that, the wolves started causing so much damage. They started taking a literal bite out of the deer and the elk and the moose and the bighorn sheep populations. And the bear, who would sometimes eat those other animals, saw that the wolves were causing a problem and knew that they had to step up. And so the bear actually started to eat the wolves. But the most amazing thing about the story was the wolves they only ate the wolves that didn't belong there. The American wolves, I mean, they were Americans, so maybe they were slightly deep fried or perhaps rolled in sugar. I'm not quite sure. Definitely had a little extra pounds on them, but it was amazing that they knew the difference, and then they stepped up to do what was right for the community, which was amazing. And it teaches us that in our community, it doesn't matter who's responsible for the mess. What makes a difference is the person who steps up to clean it up and to make things right. And that's truly what a warrior spirit is. That truly takes courage. And it's the courage to stand up and be ourselves, not to try and be something else or to conform to what society wants us to be, but to truly be ourselves at our core, because that's when beautiful things happen. And that's truly what the courage of a warrior spirit of the bear is. And so this is the bear song, which is Anishinaabe, and I learned it from, oh my gosh, so many different people, and it's there's so many different versions of it out there too. So I do the community version. I'm going to sing it all the way through. Sometimes I do it as a call and response, but I'm going to sing it all the way through today. Wait, that's the wrong song. Let's try that again. Woo, that was very gross. Yum. Okay. On that note, I think I'm going to share one more song before my voice goes completely. And so the song that I love to close with, this is the traveling song. So it teaches us that all roads lead exactly where we need them to lead. But we have a choice on which path we want to walk. Do we want to walk the hard road, or do we want to walk the easy road? It's always going to lead us to the same conclusion, but do we want to be gentle with ourselves and actually like listen to our intuition, and listen to the path that's laid out in front of us, or do we want to take the hard road where we don't have that support? It teaches us that along that road, along our journey, there are people who they teach us so many things, and there's people who are friends that just become family on that road. It also teaches us that on that road, everything happens for a reason, and when you're on the right path, you'll get all of those little signs that you're on the right path, whether that be feathers, whether it be songs coming back to you, or coming back to your family, whether it be people that just keep reoccurring in your life when things are good. It's really just about honoring that path and how it unfolds. In many of our languages, we don't actually have a word for goodbye because it's not a finality. It's to your journey until we meet again. And so this is the traveling song. And this is from Sharon Turner. And I'm so thankful that this song came back because I was on the right path. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, Hi everyone. Magwitch, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm glad my voice lasted the whole time. So please definitely support your Indigenous veterans and support agencies that are actually helping our veterans stay off the street, stay taken care of, helping with their mental health, helping with their physical health, but really just honoring them in a good way, I think is so important, and saying thank you. We don't know anyone's stories when we step over them on the street, so it's really about connecting in a good way. And if you are out and about and are looking for something to do on Memorial or Remembrance Day, I will be at Fort Calgary, so hopefully I will see some of you there. And if anything, Magwitch, I will see you next week. Hi, thank you so much for joining me. Marcy, and I will see you soon. Sakihituin, everyone. Love you.